Hey guys, this video we're going to talk about internal and external validity. So we talked about validity already once this semester, but when we talk about experiments, we have to talk about internal and external validity, which are two subtypes of validity that have very important roles in your research. Okay, so internal validity, okay, textbook definition, accuracy in concluding that the outcomes of an experiment is due to the independent variable. Okay, so your manipulation, independent variable, internal validity. They both start with I's. That's how I keep that in mind. Okay, so internal validity, can you conclude that the outcome is because of the independent variable? External validity, can you generalize the results of your experiment out? Okay, so external validity, you're generalizing out to the external world the results of your experiment. Okay, that's kind of how I keep them in mind. So when we look at these two items, okay, internal validity, is it because of our independent variable? External validity, is it generalizable? Okay, these are tough to accomplish and tough to balance, but we'll talk about some ways that you can do that in this video today. Okay, threats to internal validity. So again, we're looking at the independent variable. Okay, is the outcome due to the independent variable? There are several things that can impact the study or impact your research study that have to do with internal validity. Okay, things like history. Okay, what are some events that could happen that might influence your study? Okay, this is a big deal. Maturation. Okay, changes over time, either biological or physiological. If a person is doing a study that involves children, this is a huge issue. Okay, with maturation. As a kid ages, if you're going to do a study over 10 years of children, that maturation is going to be a giant issue with the internal validity of that experiment. Okay, because the kids are going to get older, both biologically, right? They're going to get taller, way more psychologically, right? They're going to develop, right? So that is going to be a threat to internal validity. Is the changes over time in these kids due to just them getting older, just to them maturing, or is it due to the manipulation of your independent variable? Okay, selection. This is one where if your random sampling fails you, that is what selection is. So if there's some kind of bias in your selection methods, that is a threat to internal validity. Okay? So your participating groups may be different from one another just because of who's in them. And then the last one is called mortality. It sounds kind of really bad, but it's not. This is just what happens whenever you do studies that involve over time. So if people move or if they change their phone numbers, that is called mortality. Okay, their ability to participate in your study is no longer possible. So that is a huge issue. You can get around mortality by oversampling, adding more people in your sample, or having people to replace as they go, depending on what you're studying or depending on what your design is. So that's internal validity. Again, these all have to do with that independent variable, your manipulation. Okay? Threats to external validity, okay, that generalizability, multiple treatment interference. Okay, if there's more than one thing happening, you have to be very careful whenever you design your study to make sure you're only administering one treatment at a time. Otherwise, you have this issue with external validity, with multiple treatments. We also have what's called the Hawthorne Effect. It's also known as reactive arrangements, depending on what you're looking at in terms of your textbook. The Hawthorne Effect is if people know about your experiment or what you're studying, they will change their behavior, particularly with that direct observation, with that participant observation. Happens a lot with those. Reduces your ability to generalize out because you may not be getting accurate results. And then experimenter effects. Just being in the room with people as a researcher, as an experimenter, will also influence their behavior. You have to keep that in mind. So again, think about those, some methods we talked about earlier in the semester. How are you going to reduce your effects on people? Okay? And when it comes to increasing internal and external validity, so we are aware of the most common threats to internal and external validity. So what are we going to do to increase it? Okay? Increasing validity, or internal validity, sorry. Randomly select participants, randomly assign to groups, and use a control group. Okay, so you can already see, as we've talked about with pre-experimental methods, right? Internal validity is a huge issue with those because it does not have any of these. Okay, so that's a disadvantage to pre-experimental methods. True experimental methods have all these. So their internal validity is much better. Now, external validity, okay, don't interfere with the outcome as a researcher. Sometimes researchers get very attached to their study and want to confirm their research hypothesis, and that's not good practices. So as much as it might pain a person to see their research not confirm their research hypothesis statement, you cannot interfere. Okay? There's also some ethical issues that we talked about at the beginning of the semester that go with that. And then just be careful with your experimental methods. Okay? That's ways to increase external validity. Okay? So, what do we have? Too much control, and you reduce your ability to generalize out. Okay? That's external validity. Too little control, and you can't make a good cause and effect argument. So you have to find a balance between internal and external validity. Okay? Like a seesaw. Find a good balance between internal and external. You want it to be generalizable, but you also want to have that control to find cause and effect relationships. It's very, very tough to do. Okay? That's all for this video. Email me if you have questions about it.